recording. And so what I'm working on is the different weekly exercises that Bryan Davis is doing since we did the A through Z. He's going to do another A through Z, but he hasn't done it. So we're on week 2 technical studies. And he says to vary your routine. This routine is you would do maybe instead of Clark. And he says Clark is very good. So if you want to do Clark, that's fine. But sometimes you want to vary it up and make it a little more interesting. So so this one does Clark. And so he did a free download. And the one that he showed was, let me share screen. And it's the one that, gosh, I open them up and then I can't find them. So let me go open them up real quick here if I can. They're the ones I emailed to you. Photos. Okay, so it's one of these. Is it this one? No. Okay, technical study. Arpeggios, this is it.
Arpeggios.
So, yeah, and so instead of Clark, he'd have you do this, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on it. And he played it. And
on the front page.
Play it. What? Okay.
No, my wife's just remarking on something she's looking at.
Okay, so he does this and he plays it twice. He slurs it once, and with the accents, he's doing it with a little extra air for the accent, so he's not tonguing them. And then the next time he tongues them and accents it there. And it is familiar to me as being like a Clark study. He says to play it very softly. The reason being is when you're playing it softly, it leaves your lips adaptable to do the different notes. And I didn't practice this a lot, but I practiced the first one just a little bit. So let's see how it goes. There we are. All right, and play it perfectly, but he says to slur it and then go through and play it one more time with tonguing it, but he wants you to tongue it very gently, and play these piano. And so when he says piano, and in one of these exercises we're doing stuff louder, forte, he says to play those in a way that you're not straining yourself. So when you're playing really softly and you feel like maybe you're straining your lips more, play a little louder. And if you're playing really loud and you feel like you're having a lot of tension, I'll play a little less loud. The goal is to play these without any tension, so it's easy to move from one note to the other, and then you don't stress your lips and you don't damage them. And so he has these different exercises. Now, at Bryan Davis, you can download these. I just did save the image. He has PDFs, and it says you can donate 0 to how much money you want to download it, but whenever I put 0 in, it wouldn't let me download it. So, I don't know if that's a glitch or what, but I just used the right mouse and said save image as. And so we've got this one, and then we've got 2 others for the next exercises. So with this one, he says, practice softly, he says 60 beats per second, go slow as you need to, and make sure you center each note. So don't just slide past it. And so he's thinking that each note should be as in tune as you can get it. And then he recommends slurring the beginning first time and then repeat with a gentle tongue. And he says, da. His gentle tongue almost sounds like a slur when he does it, except for the accents sound like a tongue. and says stick to playing it in a comfortable range. So if it gets too high or too low for you and it's not comfortable, don't play it that way. And he says you can vary the order in which you play these. You can play the keys in a different way. And he mentioned the circle of fourths. Do either of you know what the circle of fourths means?
There's a circle of fifths and there's a circle of fourths. That's the first I've heard of that.
Okay, so
The circle of life.
Circle of Life, yes, I was Hakuna Matata. So you have to play that song. So I don't know what a circle of fourths is, but he says you can vary it just to make it more interesting for you. He tends to practice a lot of scales. I don't practice as many scales as he does, and I think if you did, you might get bored unless you played it backwards or reverse the order, or played it in a circle of fourths, which I'll have to look up and find out what that means. He says you can expand from the center, you can do it ascending or descending, and be careful to keep it soft, especially in the upper register. Avoid straining is a goal. And he said to have fun. So it was interesting. He was playing with a mute because he was in a hotel room again with this one. And that just made me think of a mute. And I'm thinking about 3D printing one that actually has a spinning, like a propeller in it, like those whistles that you blow. And I don't know what kind of sound that would make, but I think it might give a very interesting sound, different than a normal mute if it had a thing that went as you were playing the mute. Who knows? Maybe it'd be just horrible. So anyway, I drew a little picture of it here, but not a detailed picture.
Superman.
There. Hello, Ken. All right. So the roommate is home. And so week 3, he talked about the upper register. And he said fourths for the trumpet. Interval drills in fourths, and to build your middle and upper registers. An interval that is, and he says this is an interval common in most literature, which I think he means music styles. And he says no matter what form of music you prefer, this fourths is common in jazz, classical, all the different styles. So that's why he likes this style. It's also good for articulation and flexibility. And then there's that free download again. So let me see if I can find that one. It's one of these other ones here. And fourths, there it is. Good. Happened to guess correctly. Let me switch off of this. Oops. Let me try this one more time. It's this one over here. And, oh, this is for the next one, the volume. Let me open a different one and share again. Haven't quite got the hang of this sharing. Okay, so here this one is. And I'll zoom in just a little bit. And I sent these to you.
I think each note is 4 steps.
Okay, 4 steps. So, and he says it's pretty common in improvising and in different styles of music to have these sounds. Now, this one accelerates, and he played it at 80 beats per second, but I can't. And I haven't practiced it that much. No excuses. Okay. And so he does those in different keys. He recommends mezzo piano or softer with these. I find the triplets where it alternates, da, 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 da. I find that just plays with my brain. So, but I'll get used to it. A drummer could probably do it because they go and alternate hands all the time. So I found that these were interesting. I just played the first one, but there's some here to practice with. I give you some variety, and if you were keeping up with the improvising that we were working on, then this is a good interval. So let me close that. I don't know if the last one is still open, but basically, I don't have to show you if I can't find it. Basically, it was on the letter G, the note G, and he went from piano for four counts up to double forte, and then down to piano again for 4 counts, and then he went the opposite, forte for 4 counts, down to piano and forte again. So let me finish up with this practice softly, the one we just played. You should try to move from note to note smoothly and effortlessly. Should also try to find the center of the note. Playing softly helps to prevent overblowing and over moving of the embouchure. Slurred or tongue is okay. Use a breath accent, he said. So instead of using your tongue to make the accent, use extra breath to give the accent. And I hadn't heard of a breath accent before, but when you're slurring, you kind of have to use a breath accent to accent a note because you can't use your tongue if you're slurring. So
Yeah, I do that often in the euphonium because we get a lot of slurred passages.
yeah, and you need to accent the note anyway sometime. Okay, very good. So in trumpet, we don't tend to have as many slurred accents that I remember. Do you remember them, Greg?
Not very many. I was playing something the other day actually that had one, and I was kind of wondering how you're supposed to do that. So just an extra.
Yeah, he's
I
doing an
guess.
extra little huff with the air to do a breath accent, he called it. So it's interesting to do that. But yeah, with trumpet, we normally accent your tongue.
Right.
The mouthpiece is so small on trumpet. You know, when I started playing sousaphone, I put my cornet mouthpiece all the way inside my tuba mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Just a, you know,
And did it
with
sound
bigger
good?
mouthpiece, it's a little easier to do that.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So he says you can practice as muted or mutant. You can be a mutant and practice it. No, practice it muted or open. He is in a hotel room. So the last exercise he's been in a hotel, he was using a cup mute. So, okay, so this brings us to the week 4 exercises, which he was talking about volume and practicing getting dynamics. And he says with volume, it's to enable you to play with full dynamics. And Richard's been talking about that a little bit, just to get some style playing with different dynamics. Loud to soft and back to loud. So with these exercises, play as softly and as loudly as you feel comfortable, blowing as freely as possible with as little extra lip tension so that the lips are free to adapt as we blow more air for louder notes and less air for softer notes. Unnecessary lip tension inhibits our ability to play loud. Also, if we over tense going in one direction, like going up, we are usually lose response when we're going down to the lower notes, to the extremes of the other end of the scale, or the volume, other end of the volume. He does 60 beats per minute and taps his feet and subdivides the tempo to make sure he's staying on tempo when he's doing these. Richard's really big about subdividing and thinking when he's doing these lessons to help keep us on track. And so Bryan Davis talks about that here too, to subdivide the beats. He does mention it. He doesn't mention it, but when I'm doing this exercise, I'm really trying not to shift the pitch, because when you play louder, you tend to change the pitch. And when you play slower, you tend to change the pitch, even though you're on the same note. So he didn't mention it, but with this exercise we do, so he's doing the first one, music, which I can't find right now, is just on G. And he starts with 4 counts, going from piano to to forte, piano to forte, and then back to piano, then forte to piano, back to forte. So he's going, there's G, and I go. And then he's starting. And that's really the exercise. But if we don't practice playing from soft to loud, and definitely when we're yelling louder, it's easy to make to make the note go flat, if I'm thinking correctly. Yeah, easy to go flat. So you have to regulate and make your lips a little smaller as you're going up to do those exercises. So that I sent you in an email. And so you have that. That's what I researched this time. Were there any questions on that? And anything else people are working on? I practiced the Clark studies, some of those really low notes that I haven't quite gotten used to looking at that low G. So reading those notes, since we don't play down there very often, I think we did.
We've got a guy on the internet on YouTube. His name is Matonis, his stage name is Matonis with 2 Z's on the end. But he's a euphonium player from Lithuania, and when he applied to go to a British brass festival and to compete, they didn't let him in because he didn't have any competition scores with other brass, and he said, how can I? I'm the only one. And so Stephen Mead interceded and said, let him play. And Stephen Mead wound up taking him on as a student. He's phenomenal now. He's got all kinds of videos all over YouTube, and he's got instructional things, download things, treble clef or bass clef. He says a lot of the same things that Bryan says. But the last thing that he came out with, it was an exercise where you go very, very soft and very, very loud, very, very soft, very, very loud. And boy, you should hear him play those triplets. And when you start out with the quarter notes and they go faster and faster, and he's arpeggios all over the place, and he's doing it all without tonguing. It's like, good Lord.
Yeah, it's amazing what people do. I always wonder where I'd been if I would have started as a young kid. I didn't start playing till I was like 18.
Yeah.
So Greg, when did you start playing?
I was in elementary school.
Oh, okay.
And I can still remember there was some kind of audition where they put a trumpet on the edge of a table, and then you put your lips up to the mouthpiece or something, and
no pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah, and I failed the audition. And I think one of my parents had to intercede or something to get them to take me.
Yeah.
It was probably like 4th or 5th grade or something.
And how long have you been playing, Lon?
Well, my dad started me out when I was about 10, but I didn't do much, so he didn't push it. But the thing was, he had kids all day long, so when he came home, he didn't want to hear it.
Oh, okay.
I started playing in junior high.
Okay.
Played cornet with braces on my teeth, and
wow,
I'm not made for cornet. I love it, but I can't play it. And I finally switched over to tuba, and when I was a junior, and so about 4 weeks after the other guy showed me the fingerings, I challenged him for first chair and knocked him off.
Wow.
Well,
I never looked back with tuba. But yeah,
it always seemed like you have to use tremendous amount of air. when you're playing tuba?
You get used to the air, but it's the thing is, with tuba you don't have as much resistance. I don't think so. You still put a lot of air into it, but it's not the air in the horn. It's the vibration in the horn. So I know people in their 70s and 80s that are playing tuba and are doing fine. You remember the judge, Johnny Bartlett? He played trombone for a long time with us, and he's around
Yeah.
San Diego. But somebody stole his trombone, so he bought a tuba, and he's been playing tuba. He goes to the Navy veteran things. He comes with his tuba, and but he's 10 years older than I am, so he's in his 80s, and he's doing okay. But it isn't the volume of air in your lungs. You don't need that much size. What you need is to be able to control it.
Vibration.
She says that your average lung capacity is between 4 and 5.5 liters, and she says I'm 3.8, so I have to try hard. Little Japanese gal, but boy, does she put a sound out on it. It's not how much air is in your lungs; it's the control.
So this guy, they stole his trombone, so he bought a tuba because they can't steal the tuba.
No, it's just
harder to
he
steal
needed a horn, so he got a deal on a tuba.
You'd have to get a deal on a tuba. They're very expensive.
I think the thing was, well, it's he did have a tuba, and I think this tuba got stolen. But he played trombone, and it's the arthritis, it's the arthritis.
Yeah.
So he started playing the tuba. But it sounds funny when you say he went from trombone to tuba when he got old, But yeah, he does fine. He doesn't take any more air. It's just you have to get used to it.
I always thought if you ever got handicapped, you could still play trombone with hooks. I thought, you could probably still play trombone. So not that I want to do that.
If you got bad fingers, you can play trombone. But if you got bad elbows or bad shoulders, then I guess that's out.
You're more into tuba then.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody.
Thanks, Doc.
Kathy was getting her shot, so she didn't make it back. I think Petco was taking very long, and especially with the backup because of the rain. Hard to get scheduled for my second shot, so need to get in there and try that again.
That's good. Well, you guys look up Matonis on YouTube. Just write in euphonium or something, and he comes up all the time. He's a young guy with a little beard, and but he has not only euphonium, but he's got duets, he's got quartets and ensembles, and he has some brass ensembles, and the cornets are just really lovely. Because they're all brass band players, and. But he's got some really nice stuff. He did Auld Lang Syne. It's gorgeous. But
I was just wondering if you would have been a better cornet player if you didn't have braces, because I can't imagine playing with braces unless you had to put a lot of wax on you.
Oh yeah. Everybody walked around with red mouths in those days. Yeah, they didn't. They had the old-fashioned braces. They didn't come out with these newer models yet. But I took the braces off the same time that I had a retainer, but then I got my first summer job, so I didn't practice all summer. And then, going into the fall and trying to play first cornet parts and those high notes, and I looked up the line and I thought, I'm never going to knock off the first two guys anyway. But
I had one trumpet student who switched to French horn because he didn't feel like he could go up the line with the trumpets because they had lots of trumpets and only 2 French horns. So.
Well, that's a good consideration. The horn's harder to play, but
Yeah. All right, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much, everybody.
You bet.